Well, it's that time again. Let's walk in faith, talk about anime, and grow together. Welcome to Reb's Otaku Talk. Hey Otaku family, welcome to Reb's Otaku Talk Studio Ghibli Fest. I'm your host Rev, and today I am embarking on this journey solo. This season, we're diving deep into the whimsical, heartfelt worlds of Studio Ghibli, where fantasy meets faith and wonder points us back to the creator. Whether you're a lifelong Ghibli fan or just discovering these animated masterpieces, we're here to explore each story through the lens of Christian values. From the skies of Laputa to the forest of Totoro, we'll uncover powerful themes, spiritual insights, and the beauty of God's truth woven into every frame. So grab your favorite snack, open your heart, and get ready for a journey where faith and fandom soar together. This is your Christ Walk with Otaku Talk. Studio Ghibli Fest starts now. Tales from Earthsea was made in 2006, directed by Goro Miyazaki, and based on the works of Ursula K. Le Guin. This is set in the fantasy world of Earthsea, where the balance between humans, dragons, and magic is beginning to collapse. The story follows Prince Arren, a young man haunted by a dark shadow within himself after committing a terrible act. He crosses paths with a wizard Sparrowhawk, also known as Ged, who senses the disturbance in the world and takes Arren under his guidance. As drought spreads, dragons behave strangely, and people lose their connection to magic, the film reveals a world suffering from a deep spiritual and moral imbalance. At its core, Tales from Earthsea explores themes of life and death, fear, and the struggle to accept one's true self. Arren's journey is not about conquering an enemy, but confronting the darkness within and choosing life over despair. Through Sparrowhawk's wisdom and the kindness Arren encounters along the way, the film emphasizes that harmony comes from expecting both light and shadow as part of being human. The story ultimately points towards hope, showing that restoration begins when individuals face their fears and embrace responsibility, compassion, and the value of life itself. Me personally, I like this anime. I like the almost medieval feel to it. I love how the music goes back to that Renaissance feel. It almost gives like a Hobbit or Lord of the Rings atmosphere. I think the way the story was portrayed sometimes lagged a little bit. It sometimes felt like it almost slowed to a halt, but then it would pick back up. So, I mean, it had its highs and its lows, the whole valley and mountain peak type deal. On a parental standpoint, I would say that the only thing that I would say kind of look out for is if you have younger kids, the villain of the story, Cobb, might seem a little scary. I mean, the only way I could describe Cobb is he is like a sadistic Ghibli version of Orochimaru from Naruto. I mean, they could be related just across the universe, or they could be the same person. So he has that very eerie, creepy feel to it, so younger kids might not really care for his parts in it. He can get pretty dark and get creepy, and whenever Studio Ghibli tends to add that creepy factor on, especially with evil, they tend to hit the nail on the head. I would even say that Cobb is a little creepier than Orochimaru in the way he's depicted and everything. So I would say just don't let like extremely young kids watch it. Princess Pika is currently 9 years old, and she watched it, and she didn't like Cobb's parts, but it didn't bother her to the point to where it caused an issue. But she really did not like watching his parts in the movie. So I would say, 7, 8 might be around the area that you would look at parentally to let your kid watch this movie. On a Christian level, It is a fantasy movie, and they talk about gods, in a mythological standpoint. And, this original story was written in a world similar to Earth, but it was not, Earth. It's written in a place like Earth, only it has magic and it has different creatures. So whenever they are talking about that, they are talking in a fictional mythological world. So as long as you understand that, there's really no big deal about it. If you are extremely impressionable, or you have a child who's extremely impressionable, I'd say, wait until they are mature enough to understand. Me personally, I'd give this movie about a 6.5, maybe a 7. Just because of the fact that Ghibli's had better movies. It is definitely not the worst movie that they've ever made, but it definitely is not the best they've ever made. In my opinion, Pom Poko is way worse. Story, portrayal, everything else. So I would definitely rate. I would rate. I would rate Earthsea about a 6.5. The cool thing about this is that there is a very big spiritual theme to this movie. Despite the fact that this movie actually had very low critical ratings whenever it hit the theaters and everything, it has a very strong message of finding the light in the darkness. In both the book and the movie, that is a very big theme. But as humans in our world, we seek the light and we find it in Jesus Christ, and we battle the darkness constantly in the world and in ourselves. We battle anxieties, we battle spiritual attacks, and we can find ourselves in a constant state of anxiety or worry. And I know that we've talked about anxiety and worry and everything in season 1, but we're going to dive a little deeper into it this season, and we are going to look at it from a slightly different angle. Because, God's word is a living word, and we could read the same verse over and over and over again, and we could get something much more out of it the more we read and dig into it. And in the Tales of Earthsea, we see this in Therru's song. It says, "Far, far above the clouds, soaring with the wind, a falcon flies alone. Silent as the sky, I hear his lonely cry. Never can he rest. I walk with you along an empty winding road. We are far from the ones we love and can never return. Never can we see again the countries of our birth. When will I find a place to call my home? Sadness circling like a falcon in the sky. When will I ever find a way to speak my heart to someone who knows what it is to be alone? Far, far above the clouds, against the setting sun, a falcon flies alone, silent as the sky. I hear his lonely cry. Never can he rest. I long to spread my wings and fly into the light. Open this lonely heart to one who understands. When will I ever find a way to speak my heart? When will I ever find a place to call my home? Sadness and loneliness, a falcon in the sky. When will I ever find a way to speak my heart to someone who knows what it is to be alone?" Whenever I heard this song, almost immediately, what came to my mind was 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 6 and 7. It says, "Humble yourself, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, so that at the proper time he may exalt you. Cast all your anxieties on him, because he cares for you." In this movie, like I said, it's a big portrayal of light and darkness. It's a big portrayal of that battle within multiple people. And at the beginning of the movie, you see so much of the dark intruding on the light. You see people acting negatively. You see all this turmoil and all of this evil that is spreading throughout the land. And to some people, that evil was such a great evil that it was foreign to them to see it, especially Arren. And as him and Sparrowhawk travel and they come to the farmhouse, and Arren, for a second time, comes to meet Therru, they tend to clash with each other. They don't quite mesh. They butt heads because what she sees in him is the evil. And what he sees in her is the sadness, the anxiety. And it kind of eats at each of them. And it comes to a point in the middle of the movie where Arren goes out to the back pasture to get Therru for dinner, and he sees her standing on the top of the hill, and she is singing the song. And she is singing it from her heart with such a conviction that Arren can't help but to stare and listen, and tears just start falling from his eye, because at that point he felt the same way that she did. All of that emotion, all that anxiety and darkness was weighing down on them so hard that they just didn't know how to handle it. And that song represented a point to both of them in both of their stories where they were casting those anxieties out. They were taking all that darkness that they were holding in, and they were finally putting it out into the light. They were finally letting it be made known. They were letting their past be made known. They were letting their convictions be made known. They were letting their pain be made known. I mean, they were letting it loose. And for the first time, Arren and Therru, they connected. That song was such a turning point because of the fact that they were finally casting their cares on somebody besides holding it into themselves. And because of that, they were able to start bringing each other back into the light. And that's what God is there for us to do. We battle such darkness in this world, such negativity. We are in a time in our lives and in the life of humanity where everything is offensive, where it is so easy to bully, it is so easy to bring people down, it is so easy to be negative, and it's such a heart-wrenching time in our history whenever it comes to how we treat each other, whenever it comes to how we portray ourselves. And whenever we get so deep into that darkness that we can't see the light, that is the point where we have so much anxiety and depression and everything that weighs down on our minds and our hearts that we just don't know how to get up in the morning. But just like Therru was doing up on that hill, as she was looking out into the sun, looking to the light, and she was singing that song and letting all that anxiety go, we have the ability and the opportunity to look to the light of the world, to look to Jesus, to cast all our cares upon him. Jesus is literally one prayer call away. We can just take a moment to look to the light, to look to Jesus, and let it all loose, to pour it all out, to lay it flat. Say, God, I'm so overwhelmed. God, I'm so overstimulated. Jesus, I can't see an inch in front of my face because it's just so dark. I can't see past my depression. I can't see past my anxiety. I can't see past all this filth that's in my life. God, just take it away. Take it all away. Heal my heart. Heal my mind. Take the darkness. Let your life flow into me. But not just let it flow into me, just like Therru did for Arren. Let it flow back out so that your light can shine through me to lift them up, to take them out of their dark place, to pull them out of the pit. You see, that is the beginning of igniting the flame. In the movie, as it went on, Therru, she found the light, but she saw the darkness that was still there. And she didn't give up. She wanted that light to continue to grow. She wanted it to flow to those that she cared for, those that she loved. She ran to Cobb's castle. She found Arren. She placed his father's sword in his hands. She spoke his true name. She held him. She spoke life and light into him. And it changed everything. I mean, at the end of the movie, whenever she transformed into the dragon, she transformed into the dragon in a blinding light. And it was that light that finally crushed the evil that Cobb was spreading across the land. It was the light that freed Red Hawk and his friend. We have endless opportunities to go into the light. All we have to do is seize just one of those endless opportunities, and we can pull ourselves out of a lifetime's worth of darkness. Cast your cares on Him, because He actually cares for you. I can't tell you how many people I've met who says nobody cares. They say that nobody cares about them. Nobody cares how they feel. Nobody cares about what they say. Nobody cares. God cares. I can attest to that. I was in a point in my life where so much dark was there. I was hurt by my friends. I was hurt by my family. I was hurt by the church. I was hurt from so many different angles, I didn't know what to do. I would break down on my knees in such pain, at such a deep emotional and mental level. And one day I just couldn't take it. I didn't know what to do. I was driving around in circles. At that point, I lived in a place where the whole entire city was built around a lake. I kept driving around the lake. And I came to a church that was started by my uncle. I pulled into the parking lot. Nobody was there. And I got out and I just started screaming at God, asking Him why. Why did it have to happen to me? Why did all this junk happen to me? Why was my life feeling like it was being torn to pieces? And I let it all out. What I found that day was peace. What I found that day in the pit, in the dark, with no light to be seen, was a bright, soft light that was so warm and welcoming that I just sobbed. Because that was a moment whenever I realized that God cared for me. God cared for this insignificant guy that you're hearing over the microphone. He cared for me. In this world, I'm not of some insane importance. But to God, I am of the utmost importance. That this omnipotent, mighty God would just take a couple of minutes out for me. He will lend his ear to me. He will take the time to comfort me. And he will do the same for you. You just got to let it go. And accept what he gives you in return. See, in the Tales from Earthsea, Therru's song, it emerges as a very quiet but powerful moment of truth. It's a time where she reveals her hidden identity, that person who she truly is down deep under all the darkness. And she shows all those deep wounds that she carries. And if we look at this moment through the lens of 1 Peter chapter 5, where it says, humble yourself, cast all your anxieties on him because he cares for you. If you look at it through that lens, Therru's song becomes an act of humble surrender rather than a forceful self-assertion. She does not rise through domination or revenge. She does not rise through the darkness, being shrouded in darkness. But she rises through vulnerability. She allows her true self to be seen. Her song reflects a laying down of her fear, of her pain, and her silence, trusting that her voice has value even in her suffering. In this moment, her humility opens the way for restoration and truth, to break through the darkness surrounding Arren and the world. The song also embodies the promise of being lifted up in due time. See, Therru, she was burdened by trauma, rejection, shame. And this is coming from her family. This is coming from the world. Scarred by her family. Burned by her family physically and emotionally. Shamed by everybody who looks upon her scarred face. Yet she carries all of that anxiety all the way up until that moment where she entrusts them beyond herself. As she sings, the weight she bears is no longer hers alone. And her identity as a dragon symbolizing strength, truth, and freedom is revealed not through the violence that she experienced, but through trust and the release of all that anxiety. Looking through 1 Peter 5, Therru's song reminds us that God's care invites us to surrender our fears and wounds, trusting that humility before him leads not to loss, but to healing, transformation, and hope. And that is something that we never, ever need to forget. Now, this is usually the point of the podcast where we ask questions. And I'm going to ask the questions and I'm going to give my answers. My first question, and if you have an answer to this question, please put it down in the comment section. I would love to hear your take on this. But the first question is, why do you think the filmmakers chose to do a song instead of a battle as their turning point of the story? Now I think this is possibly the best directorial decision that Miyazaki's son made. Because this movie was such a turmoil for him in his life. But this one point in this movie, to me, was such a powerful choice for him to make. See, they could have changed the tide of the light and the dark by having a huge battle, which would have made this movie go to a different type of epic. But them choosing to do it through a song went from overcoming something through vulnerability and humility instead of brute force and anger and darker emotion. It allowed the light to be shown very soft but very strong through Therru's song. And I think it has to be one of the most awesome choices that he could have made. Now, this next question is a bit of a fun one. And again, leave your answer to the question down in the comment section. But if the characters of Earthsea were to have theme songs, what song do you think Sparrowhawk's theme song would be? Me personally, I think that his theme song would have been Simple Man. He's a very chilled guy. He's of a very important position, but he lives so modestly. He refuses to live the way his title sounds. He's the Archmage of Earthsea, of the kingdoms. Yet he lives like a vagabond. He just wanders around. He doesn't dress in fancy robes. He dresses very simple. Whenever you see him in the movie, he is helping plow the fields. And then he goes and he fights a battle and he comes back and he's going to continue to plow the field. For someone who could live a very extravagant life, he chose to live by very simple means. And I think Simple Man would be an awesome theme song for Sparrowhawk. See, by choosing the song instead of a battle, Tales from Earthsea reminds us that true change often comes through humility, truth, and connection rather than force. And as we imagine Sparrowhawk's theme song, it's a fitting reminder that wisdom, faithfulness, and quiet strength often speak louder than any clash of swords. See, Sparrowhawk, the majority of the time, whenever he was in battle, he didn't battle with swords. He didn't battle using a ton of magic half the time. The grand majority of the time he battled, he did it with his words. He did it giving words of wisdom and light. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But that was his main mode of attack, was to try and spread the light into the darkness instead of allowing the darkness to continue through his actions. And now for a segment I'd like to call Anime History. When Tales from Earthsea was released, it wasn't just controversial among fans. It was deeply personal for the Miyazaki family. Hayao Miyazaki was famously critical of the film, which marked his son Goro Miyazaki's directorial debut. Hayao felt the movie lacked emotional maturity and failed to fully capture the depth and nuance of Ursula K. Le Guin's world. In a moment that became anime history lore, he reportedly walked out of an early preview to smoke a cigarette, later remarking that the film shouldn't be driven purely by emotion and suggesting that Goro simply hadn't grown enough yet as a director. While Hayao did acknowledge moments of tenderness, particularly in the dragons and some of the quieter practical scenes, he ultimately believed that his son lacked the experience and artistic voice needed for a project of that scale. For many, his harsh response wasn't just about the film itself, but a painful glimpse into the strained father and son relationship playing out behind the scenes of one of Studio Ghibli's most debated works. Beyond this, it was also said that Hayao Miyazaki's Ponyo was then created as an apology to his son for the relationship between the two, created by Miyazaki being an absent father. Knowing what Hayao Miyazaki thought and felt about the Tales from Earthsea, one can only imagine what the author of the books thought about the movie. Luckily, she shared her story of the event on her website. In summary, Ursula K. Le Guin first saw Tales from Earthsea at a private Studio Ghibli screening in August of 2006, after she and her son were unable to attend the Tokyo premiere. While she initially told director Goro Miyazaki that it was his movie, and a good one, she later offered a fuller and more candid response. Le Guin acknowledged that the film's beauty and moments of tenderness, especially in the animals, dragons, and quiet practical scenes of everyday life that reflected the grounded spirit of Earthsea. However, she felt the animation lacked the depth and richness of earlier Ghibli classics, and the imagery, while effective, was often controversial. More critically, Le Guin believed that the film strayed too far from the heart of her books. She felt the story was incoherent. It relied too heavy on violence and reduced complex moral struggles into a simple battle between good and evil. Key themes like the balance of life and death and the darkness within oneself were presented in ways she felt were unearned and preachy, rather than arising naturally from character and story. While she understood that films must differ from novels, she was troubled by what she saw as a lack of fidelity in the characters and philosophy that had defined Earthsea for decades. Despite these concerns, she praised the Japanese voice acting and hoped the film's quieter, more reflective moments and Therru's song would remain intact for international audiences. In closing, let's remember 1 Peter 5:6-7, where it says, "Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, that at the proper time he may exalt you, casting all your anxieties on him, because he cares for you." Join me as I close in prayer. Father God, I thank you for a blessed year in 2025. But God, I thank you for the blessings that are to come in this new year of 2026. But God, if we came into this new year and we have any anxieties of the past still lingering on us, God, I pray right now that you shed your light into us, that you spread your light through us and from us, to take these anxieties and put them in the past, to shed light on them and expel the darkness that comes from them. That all the depression that is flowing through our minds is just cast out. That darkness is no longer in our mind, and your light stands in its place. God, I thank you for taking the time to hear our prayer, to hear our problems. I thank you that you love us so much to care. And God, I ask that as we continue down this road we call life, that you open up our eyes to see you in the wonder and the lessons and the beauty that's all around us. That we even see you in the worlds created by our favorite artists and animators. That our passion for anime will draw us closer to your truth. In Jesus' name, amen. Hey guys, thanks for hanging out with me on Reb's Otaku Talk Studio Ghibli Fest. Make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, and don't forget to like and follow us on Facebook at Reb's Otaku Talkers and on X at Reb's Otaku Talk. We'd love to hear from you, so drop a comment, leave a review, and share your favorite god and anime moments with the community. Also, check out Reb's Otaku Shop to grab some awesome merch, and don't miss out on a bag of Reb's Konkohi coffee. The link is in the description below. Until next time, keep your anime collection strong and your faith stronger. See you later, guys.
Keep it up. Listener mail and fan debates. We love the art the Lord creates. From Studio Ghibli to Naruto, God speaks in ways you didn't know. Stories rise like rising sun. We break them down one by one. True, this ain't just hype, it's revelation. Anime with holy inspiration. Otaku life with transformation. Faith and fandom, no limitation. It's Rebs! Otaku Talk! From JoJo's post to Spirit Lead, we laugh, reflect, and plant that seed. It's Rebs! Otaku Talk! So hit that play, don't walk away. Let's geek and grow in Jesus' way. O-T-A-K-U, talking truth in all we do. Rebs crew, rolling through. Faith meets fandom just for you.
Taku taku. Ha ha!